Good evening, everybody. It is Thursday, February 10th, 2022, and what a crazy day on Wall Street. Market volatility is back. We had a big rally on Wall Street early in the day, but we have since faded after some very strong comments, let's just say, from a St. Louis Federal Reserve president, James Bullard, calling for a 50 basis point hike in the interest rate in March of 2022. We also had CPI numbers come in just crazy. A really, really unbelievable print in the CPI, coming in at 7.5%. That is the highest inflation rate since 1982. We're going to talk about that and more on the stream. We'll talk about that 10-year yield. Obviously, as I've always said, if we want to know where the stock market's going, we got to watch the debt market, the bond market. The spread between the 10 and the 2s are narrowing. We have a 10-year Treasury Yield now over 2%. We'll talk about that and more on the stream. Hey, I see Samantha J. What's up, Samantha J? Solo 401, what is going on? Dave in Maine is here. This is good evening, Tom. It's great to see you tonight. Good to see you too. Sorry I couldn't stream yesterday or the day before. Just had to get some things done with work. I see Jonathan France, Humane, Laytha says hello, Tom, and everybody in the chat. What's up, Laytha? Good to see you. Hey, Melee's here. What's up, Melee? Good to see you. Says hello, good evening, Tom, and everybody. So we are in downtown Miami tonight. We're going to be walking to Brickell. Chris is here. What's up, Chris? Brian Adams. Sally is here. I see Samantha J, the one and only Solo 401. Shauno says hello from Detroit. Helen says hi. Ken Kramer. What's up, Ken? Santa Monica Rodriguez. Vinny Castellano says, good evening, my friend. Hope you had a good day. I did. Good to see you, Vinny. Sally is here. Dante Rose, the ABX girl, the one and only. NNB 045 NG, and just Jennifer is here. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you, Bernard Friedman. Says finally we have a live stream. What's up, Bernard? Hope you're well. We're out here in front of the Metro Mover station tonight. I see Prince Charming, Sunshine After Rain, Ruby Falcone, the one and only. Welcome, everybody. Hemp Lord says hi there. Humane says glad to have you back, Tom. My uncle and I listened together and we missed you. Hey, well, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, just work has been, let's just say, a little bit more busy than usual. Yeah, so I just had to take the past 2 nights off. We're working a really big deal with a major hospital in Jacksonville, Florida. And that has just been demanding much of my time. But, I mean, as we've been talking about on the stream, I mean, inflation is just running wild. And I remember last month I said, look, inflation is not going to stop. It's not going to stop. It's going to continue. And if anything, it's going to get a lot worse. And that's exactly what we saw today on Wall Street when we had the CPI numbers come out at 7.5%. But if we look at 2 of the main critical details from within that CPI report, the 2 things that stood out to me the most was, number 1, shelter and food costs have risen astronomically, really contributing to that CPI number. And we've been talking about this a lot, right? So it's not like this caught us off guard, because we've been talking about rent prices, prices of single family homes, the prices of food, shortages on the shelves. We've been talking about that on the stream almost every night. So, hey, British Gray is here. Says good Thursday evening, Tom, and Sunshine After Rain and Ruby. Good to see you. Marilyn is here. Says hello, everybody. Hit the like button. Good to see you, Marilyn. Hope everything is going well back in New York City. Sandra says, good night, Tom. Glad to see you. Glad to see you, too. Bernard Friedman. Brian says, are gas prices going to keep on rising? Yeah, well, that was another one of the things in the CPI report. We had energy prices up, gas prices up. I think gas prices were up 9%, if I remember correctly. Food prices were up 0.9%. But I think on a year-over-year, that's significant, you know, to have food prices up 7%, because you got to think about the economy as a whole, right? It's not just that you go to the grocery store and you buy food. You know, you have to think about the restaurant owners, the restaurant workers. You know, there's a trickle-down effect in the economy. And if we see a CPI print that shows food costs up 7% year over year. You know, what does that mean when you go to Chipotle? What does that mean when you go to the fast food places? You know, these businesses are going to have to raise prices to offset their margin contraction here. So we'll talk about that tonight. Hey, Michelle McGraw is here. Says, hey, Tom and everybody. What's up, Michelle? Good to see you. Falcon Space, his prices always go up. It's the regular. Interesting. Hey, Soho guy is here. Says, what is up? What's up, Soho? Good to see you. British Gray says, Tom, inflation is 7.5%, the highest since February of 1982. I know things are getting crazy, but you know what? One of the things, yeah, so Layda in the chat, she says CPI report, shelter, gas, and energy prices, food are all up. So I think this is going to come to an impasse here, and I think that President Joe Biden is really going to hammer down on Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell to say, look, you know, midterm elections are approaching. You got to put a damper on this inflation thing. You got to knock it out. And I think that's going to allow the equities markets to suffer just a little bit. But, you know, before midterm elections, you got to get this thing down, or it's not going to be a good day for Democrats. One thing I wanted to note, we have the microphone again tonight, so you're going to hear a lot of wind noise, which I apologize for. But we should have the microphone back up and running tomorrow. Hey, Jonathan Francis, Tom, $100 per barrel. Watch what happens with shipping. Yeah, I mean, Jonathan France, I don't think you're wrong. You know, many of the major investment banks are calling for $100 a barrel on crude oil. So you're probably right. So this is the Frost Science Museum right here in downtown Miami. Bit of Wander says, well, hey friends, what's up, Bit of Wander? Good to see you. Santo A says, surprise rate cut is coming. Now that would be interesting. That would be really, really bizarre. A surprise rate cut. Wow. Well, I mean, look, anything's on the table. I mean, the financial markets have been really, really bizarre lately. You know, we have a lot of interesting things coming out of the Bank of Japan, which I think I need to leave for another stream. But we will cover it in detail. But we are here right under 1,000 Museum. Hey, Edson says, hey, Tom, what's up, guys? What's up, Edson? Good to see you. Terry P is in the house. Good to see you, Terry. Bit of Wander, Jonathan France. Layda says, prices do not always go up. Sometimes they go down. Yeah, so Layda, you make a good point. So there's a very notable and respected growth stock manager on Wall Street. Her name is Kathy Wood, and she actually thinks all of this inflation is going to be transitory and that it's going to reverse. I'm not too sure about that, but I think we need to keep all of our options open. Hey, Chris Mills says, hola, Tom. What's up, Chris? Good to see you. Andreas A says, Tom, Dem Congresswoman on CNN saying the $3 trillion Build Back Better will decrease inflation. Interesting. So we have the FTX arena right in front of us. Hey, Pamela says, hi, Tom. Good to see you. Good to see you as well. Andreas A says, David Beckham has his apartment in that building. Yeah, I think this is my favorite building in downtown Miami. I'll give you guys another look at it. Ken Kramer says the Fed will continue to inflate the bubble. If they don't, everything will implode. I think you're right, Ken. You know, the Federal Reserve, I believe their end goal is to own it all. They just want to buy and inflate so they can be the, I always say, the lender and buyer of last resort. But if you guys noticed, you know, and we were talking about this a couple streams ago, usually during bear market environments, you'll have a really, really strong open, right? So I was watching the market on the open up until about 1 o'clock. And a lot of stocks across the board, you know, were really in gear. You know, I thought we were going to have a big follow-through day again today. But it's interesting that happened. You know, once that CPI report came out and once St. Louis president or Fed president James Bullard came out and said, look, we got to get this thing under control. We got to get inflation under control. And in March, we need to have a 50 basis point rate hike. That's when everything reversed and we closed significantly lower. I think the NASDAQ was almost down 2% today. The S&P 500 maybe 1.8% down. Dow Jones Industrial Average got hammered. So it was interesting to see that reversal today. And that's really indicative to bear markets when you have a really, really strong open and then you fade throughout the day. So we'll keep our eye on it. Hey, Minraj is here. Says, good evening, bro. How are you? Doing really good, Minraj. Hope you're well. One person that I really, really respect a lot, Tom Thornton is his name, and he is the founder of hedge fund Telemetry. And he actually did a really unbelievable interview today with Real Vision. So he covers in depth what he thinks the stock market is going to do, if he thinks the Federal Reserve is going to raise interest rates, and if he sees inflation persisting over the next couple quarters. So if you type !REAL, R-E-A-L in the chat, I programmed the Nightbot to actually drop a link to that interview. I was watching it right at the market close today, and I think it's probably one of the most important interviews for people that are interested in the financial markets, understanding how interest rates impact the economy and impact the stock market. You know, it is quite a long interview. It may be about 45 minutes, but I definitely would suggest checking this out. You know, Thomas Thornton, he is the founder and CEO of hedge fund Telemetry. I believe they are based out of Connecticut. And he did a really, really good job of breaking things down. And just as, you know, on this channel, I like to provide a lot of free content and alternative sources so we can learn and understand different opinions from across the board and then sort of formulate our own. Hey, Dino's here. What's up, Dino? Says, hi, Tom Reed, behind the street, 13 on the flight from TPA to EWR. Concise and informative, yet light enough to read on a short flight. Hey, thank you, Dino. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you for reading the newsletter, Dino. Hope you enjoyed it. Hey, Ramsey's here. What's going on? Otto is here. What's up, Otto? Mike Simmons says, did you see the AFMR debacle today? Mike, I did. That is hilarious. So if anybody doesn't know what Mike is talking about, so Affirm, right? And actually, I believe, Mike, I'm not sure you were a subscriber of the channel when we did this live stream, but I actually did an in-depth live stream on all of the buy now, pay later stocks. And so this company called Affirm reported earnings today. But in my opinion, what I think happened is some intern probably accidentally pressed send on a tweet a little bit too soon. So they were set to report earnings after the bell, after the market closed, but they actually tweeted their financial results before the market closed. So really, really not good stuff, not a good look at all. And I think the stock has gotten hammered, it's leveled. I think it's down about 20%. I haven't checked it over the past 30 minutes, but I think they're down like 25%. And I think a lot of the financial information that they tweeted was actually wrong and needed to be revised. So kind of crazy. Dante Rose says, imagine how beautiful Miami looks in person. It does look good in person. Yeah, someone hit the send button too soon. You're right. Hey, Santo A is here. Says they should announce earnings during market hours. Interesting. So Santo A, the vast majority of market moves actually happen after hours. That is why I'm not a big day trader. I don't day trade because you're going to miss all the big moves, right? If you want to be in the big moves, you got to hold the stock after hours. Jerry says, hello all. How is everybody tonight? There's a lot of parked trucks here in Canada. So the Freedom Truckers rally is going strong from what I hear. And what sort of what do you call it? I believe Canada, it's broken down into provinces. Is that correct? So is this trucker rally across the board in every province? Am I saying that correct? Here's the Freedom Tower all lit up in red here. Hey, Santo Ace is not really. I made good with AFMR. Karen 2.0 is here. What's going on? Retired in the Village, Florida. Says, hi, VIX currently down. Your position on tomorrow's market, more blood or reversal into the weekend. By the way, killed it on AFMR when it hit down to $50 exactly and sold in 35 minutes, 17% profit. Thanks. Wow. Well, congratulations on your profits. That's awesome. My thoughts on the market open tomorrow? I don't know. I really have no idea what the market's going to do tomorrow. I think there's still a little bit of selling to be done here. What's going on here? So I think there's still a little bit more selling that needs to be done. So if anybody's read the Behind the Street newsletter that I sent out, I said it's really important to watch that 200-day moving average. So the 200-day moving average on all of the indices, you talk about the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ, that is usually considered the long-term trend, right? And as we see, price is actually sitting below and is closed below now 2 days in a row, below that key 200-day moving average, with rates going up. Obviously, we had a comment from James Bullard, which he seemed to have flipped his tune or flipped his script entirely. If you guys remember, just last week, I was reading an article in Reuters that said James Bullard actually disagrees with raising interest rates at all. And then he comes out today and says that we need to have a 50 basis point hike. So it's a mess, but I think that's signaling to the market that the Federal Reserve does not have things under control. And that is definitely not good. So I think there's still some selling to come, but we'll keep our eye on it. Hey, Shop by Scott is here. What's up, Scott? Hope you're well. So Scott, it was a beautiful day today. I was outside a little bit during my lunch break. It was probably around 77 degrees, bright sun. It was beautiful. Marco La Rosa says, Tom, are you watching the Peacemaker TV series? You know, I've never heard of that, but let me pin that comment so I remember to check it out. Western Mass Dave says, possible truck protests hitting the U.S. to interfere with the Super Bowl, I read. Anybody else read that? I have not read that. I have not read that personally. But then again, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, I think the truckers' protest has spiraled into something a lot larger than a lot of people expected, perhaps. But then again, I'm not too keyed in on that. Hey, Daniel, good to see you. Chris Mills says the trucker rallies are in Ottawa, Windsor, and a few border towns to the west. Copy that. Hey, Leonardo says, hello, Tom, watching you from Brazil. Tim says, good evening, truckers, inflation in Ukraine. Wow. What do you think? Yeah, Tim, it's definitely an interesting time to be alive. Let's just say that. Definitely an interesting time to be alive. But I think the most important thing to talk about in this inflation report is shelter costs and food costs, right? Because as we've been pretty much outlining on the streams for over the past 6 months, you know, inflation is not good. And that may seem like an obvious statement, but I think we need to understand that inflation really only hurts people that are in the middle class to lower class, because these are the type of people, including myself, right? I would consider myself middle class. We don't have access to capital like the top 1% does. We don't have access to the assets that produce income. Let's say if you own multifamily real estate or something like that. So if you're very asset light during times of inflation and your income isn't increasing, but the cost of food, shelter, and energy are increasing, that's really, really gonna put a vice grip on you. So I think that what's gonna happen over these next couple weeks is Joe Biden is really gonna hammer Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell to really get inflation under control. As we go into a midterm election cycle, if we keep having these inflation prints of now it's almost 7.58%, that's just not going to be acceptable for the Biden administration, in my view. And I think you're going to see a Federal Reserve that's going to be raising rates at their next meeting in March. But inflation is not good on the middle class. And, the middle class is being wiped out and eradicated in this country as it is. And this CPI print with shelter, rent costs going up, the cost of single family homes, and the cost of food going up, it's definitely not helping one bit. Sarah G says the president must take steps to boost the market, Tom. Interesting. Vinny Castellanos to support the truckers. Soho guy, good to see you. Marjan Worldwide says Biden needs to rescind many executive orders. Interesting. Hey, Pia's here. Good to see you, Pia. We're here in downtown Miami. Falcon Space says, do you believe this is by design? Interesting. You know what? I'm not too sure about that. There's often times where I kind of go back and forth in relation to what the real narrative is with the Federal Reserve and inflation. Sometimes I go back and forth. Hey, Lily Ray says, good evening. Good to see you, Lily. Hope you're well. Hey, Chris says, that is a lovely big red building. Yeah, so that is the Freedom Tower here in downtown Miami. I'm not sure if there's a basketball game going on, but it does seem like there's some sort of event going on outside of the FTX arena. Does anybody know if there's a basketball game tonight, or is it a concert or something like that? Because it does look like there's something going on. Jermaine says buy Bitcoin. Anna Jane says, I am from New Jersey. What is the temperature there? Well, I think it was pretty much like 77 to 80 degrees all day today. It was really nice. Really, really nice today. Hey, Marjan Worldwide says, Tom, when are you going to Key West? Honestly, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. I'm just so hammered with work. It's just not even to be believed. Retired in the village of Florida. It's a serious question. Why do young traders trade primarily junk meme stocks? Don't these traders realize that old traders like myself take advantage of meme traders that lack the skills and crush them? Yeah, I think it's a good question. We talk about that often, quite frequently on the streams. And I think it just all has to depend upon attention span and marketing. Right? If you look at the vast majority of the YouTube videos out there in relation to finance that have a ton of views, it's all of these, quite nonsensical, videos where the title is, this is the next stock to go to the moon, or Dogecoin, or whatever it may be, right? It may be a little bit juvenile and ridiculous, but at the end of the day, that's what gets the clicks and that's what makes them the advertising revenue. So perhaps the content that's being pushed, inadvertently or not, is what the average millennial is consuming, right? And it just so happens that they're consuming nonsense, which I think is rather unfortunate. But yeah, that's what I would say. And also, it's a lot easier to try to go online and watch some guy on YouTube to get a stock pick out of him than it is to actually learn the fundamentals and the mechanics of finance, right? So I think it has to do with maybe short-term attention spans, the content that is being consumed, as well as, I would say lastly, maybe just laziness perhaps. But I think you make a good point. So here we are at the port of Miami. Hey, Yogi's here. What's up, Yogi? This is Tool. Tool is playing tonight. I've never heard of Tool. NMB045 says, Tom, is AMD considered growth or cyclical? I think at times in the past, semiconductor stocks have been considered cyclical, but now I think they're considered a necessity, right? So there's been at times where, even back 10 years ago, they say, yeah, semiconductor stocks, they're quite cyclical. But now, if you think about every single major innovation that's out there, especially number one, EVs, all these electric cars require 2 times as many chipsets as a regular internal combustion engine car, right? You talk about the implications of machine learning, artificial intelligence, smartphones, tablets, washers, dryers, pretty much anything. 5G rollout, IoT, Internet of Things, a lot of different routers and switches for software-defined wide area networks. All of these different things require semiconductors and require chips. So I believe over the past 5 years, semis has actually become more of a cyclical sort of sector to a necessity. So definitely the growth driver is there. I mean, AMD reported a great quarter. Pretty much across the board, all the semiconductor stocks reported great quarters. Hey, Charlie Richardson is here. What's up, Charlie? Good to see you. Shot by Scott says, before your time, Tom, they were big in the 90s, but never really radio friendly. Talking about Tool. Interesting. Hey, Beta Mario says, hello, Tom. How you doing? I'm doing really good. Dev5 says, why don't you just start plugging other live streamers and other TV shows on right now? Western Mass Dave says, Tool big time. This is Tom. We love you even though you don't know who Tool is. Yeah, I've actually never heard of him. Hey, Gregory's here. Good to see you. Tom AK is here. So Tom. Running at altitude says, real estate is becoming out of financial reach for most. Yeah, I mean, the prices of single-family homes have gone through the roof. And I think that's mainly due to the supply issue. There's way too much demand and no supply. Henry says, any fish fans in the chat? So I think EBITDA, I'm not sure if he's on the stream tonight, but EBITDA is a big fish lover. Vinny Castellano says, Tom, I saw ZI had a great day yesterday. Yeah, Zoom Info I think was up about 4% on the day today, but they're going into an earnings report. I think they're reporting earnings in 5 days here. So next week, Zoom Info CEO is Henry Schuck. Zoom Info is a great company. I use their products every day in enterprise tech sales. Valuation may be a little bit frothy, so as interest rates are rising, that 10-year yield broke that 2% level today. So just be mindful of that. Let me catch up in the chat. Hey, Jamie Price says, good evening, Tom. What's up, Jamie? Good to see you. Hey, Henry is here. What's up, Henry? Chris says it's cold up here in Central Florida. What's up, Chris? Smee Media says, if you wanted to take us all to the beach right now, how far of a walk would it be? It'd be pretty far. So we are in downtown Miami, so it's not like we are in South Beach. So it'd probably be maybe 2 or 3 miles. Definitely not close to the beach. Hey, Maria Castellano, good to see you. Hope you're well. Yeah, parking full time says the action today in the 10-year was worrying. Yeah, I agree. I mean, one of the things that I worry about is an uncontrolled sell-off in the debt market, right, in the bond market. And as we know, bond prices and yields have an inverse correlation. And as of now, I mean, we've just been having crazy moves in the bond market, really, really big moves. I like to watch the spread between the 2 and the 10. So that yield curve is narrowing. There's a lot of economists on the street that are calling for, well, soon to be an inversion of the yield curve. Well, I guess we'll have to see. But we now have a 10-year Treasury yield above 2%, which, as we know, is not really good for growth stocks. So if you just pull up a chart of the Russell 2000, you know, this has been an indice that has not fared very well at all. And it's mainly because it's not being held up by all the major tech stocks, like the growth or the big mega cap, right? So the Russell 2000 tends to be the smaller capitalization stocks. And these smaller stocks in the US, a lot of them are what you call zombie companies. So they have no earnings. And many economists and money managers on Wall Street actually claim that the vast majority of companies in the Russell 2000 are only around due to artificially low interest rates and cheap money, which I think is probably a fair thing to say. And as rates go up, that's going to put more pressure on those stocks that don't have sustainable earnings. Hey, Daniel is here. What's up, Daniel? Hey, Roberts' new 10-year for human health physical. Not sure what that means. Hey, Dale says Little Asheville, North Carolina is officially the most expensive place to live in North Carolina because of this problem. Hey, Mickey, good to see you. Hope you're well. Al Baker is here, says, hey all. What's up, Al? James Tiger says, hi Tom, was out in Miami last week for the Miami Marathon. Hey, congratulations for running that. That's awesome. Yeah, so the Miami Marathon just happened this past weekend, right? And I think the finish line was somewhere down here. Yeah, unfortunately, I was still in New York when the marathon was going on, so we could not stream from there. Jonathan Francis, Tom doesn't listen to music. I listen to music sometimes. Ruby Falcone, hope you're having a good Thursday. So today I thought it was Wednesday at first. But nope, it is Thursday, tomorrow, Friday, end of the week already. I mean, this week really, really flew by. Tom AK says, not a runner, Tom. Yeah, I'm a big runner. Big runner. Al Baker says next weekend is the Miami Boat Show. So where is that going to be? Can we view that from down here, downtown Miami? Hey, Robert says now this is an enterprise in and of itself. Have engineers beam it up. Mike Simmons says I started a position in PayPal today. Figured 119 is at least close to the bottom, says Mike. Very interesting. Yes, so Mike, the only two stocks that I bought. So if we just review really quick, last week on Monday, we had what's called a follow-through day, right? And not all follow-through days will work, but there's never been a bull market that hasn't started without a follow-through day. So on Monday, we had a follow-through day. It was very, very difficult to find any stocks to buy because there was just so much damage across the market. You know, if you look under the hood of this market, aside from any of the mega cap tech stocks, the vast majority of these stocks are down 30 to 70%, especially a lot of the high beta growth stocks. So the only two stocks that I bought on Monday was ServiceNow, ticker symbol NOW. I had probably about 1% of equity I initiated in that position. I'm expecting to get stopped out of that relatively soon. And then I bought Apple, because these were the only two companies that resembled anything of a base, have strong fundamentals. But then again, after today's action, I'm probably going to get stopped out of both of those positions in my actively managed accounts. But I guess we'll have to see. But ServiceNow is coming off of a fantastic quarter, probably one of the best quarters in their company's history. And for anybody who doesn't know what ServiceNow is, it is an enterprise software company, and the CEO is Bill McDermott. And we've been talking about Bill McDermott for a while on this stream. And back in the day, Bill McDermott actually had a horrible accident. That's why he wears, oftentimes you'll see him wearing sunglasses inside, because I believe it was on Christmas Eve. Unfortunately, he suffered a tragic accident. He fell down the stairs and he landed on a wine glass. And he has severe eye damage, and I believe he's blind now in one of his eyes. Hey, Obama's here. So stops didn't work in 2000. What's up, Obama? Good to see you here. Hey, Jeffrey says, Tom, what an incredibly clean city. I agree. Miami is definitely very clean. Hey, Jeffrey is here. Says hello. Good to see you. So this is the Metro Mover here. Hey, Tim says ZG up about 14% after hours on revenue beat, but hit 52-week low late in January. Any thoughts? Yeah, usually I stay away from those type of stocks. Anything that's hitting 52-week lows, I sort of stay away from, because there's so much overhead supply. So there's something called overhead supply, right? Because if you think about it, let's say if a stock is off, like a Peloton, let's say if a stock is off 90% from its all-time high. Well, that means there's a lot of people, quote unquote, holding the bag. So as that stock price makes its way up towards all-time highs, you're going to have a ton of selling pressure, because there's a lot of people who bought near the high that are kicking themselves and that are saying, look, if I could just get back to where I started my position, I'm going to sell out and then I'm going to walk away, right? So there's a lot of psychology involved. So I actually like to buy stocks that are breaking out to new highs, that have relative strength in the market, as opposed to stocks that are near 52-week lows, because there's a lot of work and repair work that needs to be done in those particular names. Chris Beeman, good to see you. Hey, Disney cast member says walks on Wall Street, Amityville misses you. Oh my God. Disney cast member, I think you're referring to the time where I meant to take the train to Long Beach, but wound up on a one-way trip to Amityville. No fun. James's Dominion Energy a buy. It's definitely one of those sectors that's outperforming. Hey, Ken Glass is here. Says hi, Tom. Very missed the last 2 nights. Glad you're back. Thank you, Ken. Hey, Pick Tours is cool stream. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here. Hey, Action Kid is here. What's up, AK? Says, have you ever written the Metro Mover yet? So I haven't, which is really strange, but I have not. Well, at least, let me rephrase that, at least not on the stream. We haven't streamed from the Metro Mover, unfortunately. But I'm very tempted to, but then again, there are some interesting characters out at night on the Metro Mover. But good to see you, AK. Hope you're holding it down in New York. Hey, Talvish is here. Says, walks in Wall Street. How are you doing? I'm doing really good, Talvish. The topic for tonight was this unbelievable CPI print that we got. 7.5% print on the CPI, and that is the highest year-over-year inflation print since 1982. But here's something interesting. Just in January alone, so a 1-month CPI print of about 0.6%. So that means, I mean, you know, prices are increasing across the board closer to 1% a month now. I mean, that is almost runaway inflation. So I think Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell is going to be getting probably a not so welcoming phone call from President Joe Biden to say, look, you got to get this thing under control as we move into a midterm election cycle, because it's not going to be pretty. The election results are not going to be pretty if we keep having inflation on a tear like this. So what that means is March of 2022, we're probably going to see an interest rate hike in the Federal Reserve. You know, we had James Bullard, which is the St. Louis Fed president, coming out today reneging on what he said just last week and says, look, this is out of control. We got to raise interest rates probably about 50 basis points. Which I agree with. Even if it means the stock market has to correct 10%, I mean, I would rather take that equity drawdown than have inflation, you know, wreak havoc on hardworking Americans. But that's just my view. Hey, Mount Up 716 is here. What's up, Mount Up 716? I think we may start to buffer around this location. Hey, super friends in the city, Fernando's here. What's up, Fernando? Good to see you. Hope you're well. I saw you were in Koreatown today. You were at my favorite Korean fried chicken place in the city. Hey, Daniel G from Buenos Aires, Argentina is here. Hey, Daniel. Good to see you. Hope you're well. Valentina says, hope you're well, Tom. I hope you're well too. Thank you for joining. Mickey says, are those office buildings or apartments? So I believe this building, which one? This building in particular is an office building, but there are a lot of luxury apartment complexes here in downtown Miami. But if you walk across the bridge to Brickell, there's a lot more, let's just call them residences. Good to see a Disney cast member. Lay those here. Hey, Mark Davis. So Mark Davis is our medical marijuana expert in the chat from Toronto, Canada. Always good to see you, Mark. Susan Duffy says, hello, nice night. Good to see you. British Gray is joining us from Tampa, Florida. Great edit, good to see you. Tim says the Fed has quite the balancing act. They definitely do. They definitely do. Hey, Thiago says, Tom, the Miami streets are so clean. Miami is definitely. But I wanted to share a really interesting interview with everybody. And I mentioned it at the start of the stream. But if you type !real, R-E-A-L, it's going to drop a very, very fascinating interview with Tom Thornton, or Thomas Thornton. And he is the CEO and founder of hedge fund telemetry based out of Connecticut. And he did an unbelievable interview with Real Vision after the market closed today, talking about the Federal Reserve being behind the curve, if we're going to see interest rate hikes going into March of 2022, and really just an overall market outlook. But the reason why I wanted to share it, more importantly, is to give people a better understanding of market mechanics in the debt market as opposed to the stock market. Because I think there's a lot of videos out there on YouTube and just many retail traders in general they're so focused on the stock market. Hey, what did the Dow Jones Industrial Average do today? What did the NASDAQ do today? But the most important thing is the debt market. You have to watch the bond market. So the 10-year Treasury Yield, the 2-year, the spreads between the 10 and the 2, because we have to understand that the stock market is a mere derivative of the debt market, right? So the stock market derives its value from the bond market. So today we had a 10-year Treasury Yield breaking above 2% for the first time in a long time, which is definitely going to put pressure on a lot of these high beta growth stocks. Let's see if we see any dolphins tonight on the stream. Hey, Cosmo Scary's here. What's going on? We have a full house, everybody. We got Cosmo Scary, Super Friends in the City, Action Kid. We got the whole gang. So this is the Aston Martin Tower, and you have a beautiful moon right up ahead. Hey, NMB 045 from Canada says, Tom, I just did 2 miles on the treadmill while listening to you. Well, thank you for that, NMB 045. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Aaron Prill says, good evening. What's up, Aaron? I hope you're well. Happy Thursday, everybody. Humane says, if we see dolphins, I'll be so happy. Well, before I left to New York last time, we actually got to see some. But this morning, I was walking across the bridge to get something to eat, and there was a family of manatees swimming right under the bridge near my house. So it was awesome to see today. Hey, Lena Sandoval is here. What's up, Lena Sandoval? I hope you're well. Good to see you. Tanya S is here, and Savi says, good night, Tom and everybody. What's up, Savi? I hope you're well. Hey, Beach Trader. South Beach Trader, what do you think about the CPI print today? What do you make about all of the inflation nonsense? And do you think that the Federal Reserve is going to raise rates in March? Good to see you, Sarah G. As we are outside of the Citibank building. Yeah, Michelle McGraw says, I love manatees. Yeah, there's usually, all the time, I think I see the same ones. They're the 2 adult manatees, and they have 2 little kids. I'm not sure what they're called. They may be called calves, I believe. But then again, I'm not too sure. Hey, Dean is here. What's up, Dean? Says, hey, Tom. Hope you're well, Dean. Susan says, I have stock in Northrop Grumman. Very pleased with the growth of the stock, says Susan. Yeah, and I mean, you know, to that point, with a lot of this nonsense going on in the Ukraine with Russia, you know, you never know. The defense stocks could continue to outperform. I guess we'll have to see. Obama says, didn't China do $1 trillion QE? I think they probably did more. I think this is Cosmo's car right here. This yellow one. Yes, I have heard of Will Danoff. Somebody asked me if I heard of Will Danoff. Yep. Hey, Otto says, Tom, do you think value ETFs like VOOV is a better bet in uncertain markets? Well, I think the stocks that are, and as I wrote about in the Behind the Street newsletter, So if anybody wants to read the newsletter that I sent out, if you type !news, N-E-W-S in the chat, the Nightbot will drop a link to the Behind the Street newsletter where you can click the link and sign up and read. But it's interesting, if we look at the type of stocks that are outperforming in this market, at least over the past 2 months, you know, they're all energy stocks. You'll notice a lot of oil and gas, energy stocks, you know, stocks like Church & Dwight, which make baking soda, toothpaste, and other toiletries, right? And these are necessity items. And I think this is very indicative of the market that we're in, right? So higher interest rates, fears of a recession. So a lot of Wall Street money managers are going to consolidate their holdings to things that people need to buy every day, right? I mean, if there's a recession tomorrow, I'm still going to need to buy toothpaste and toilet paper and baking soda, right? So I think that, you know, at least until the Federal Reserve raises interest rates and provides some sort of clarity to this market, I think we're going to continue to see a lot of these oil and gas, energy stocks continue to rally. Hey, EBITDA is here. What's up, EBITDA? Good to see you. Unlimited Stimulus says 2-year Treasury yields have risen to 1.54%. Yeah, they have. It's crazy. So the spreads between the 10 and the 2s are getting really wild here. EBITDA. So we were just talking about the 7.5% CPI print. I'd love to know your thoughts about that. What do you think, EBITDA? Hey, Chris Beeman, thank you so much for the $5 donation. Just so glad that you are well. Missed you for the last 2 days. Thank you, Chris, for the support. You're too kind. Yeah, I apologize I was not able to stream yesterday or the day before. Had to get a couple things in order, but we should be back to our regular scheduled programming. Hey, Crazy Otto, what's up, man? Crazy Otto says beer, smoke, and oil. So the cigarette stocks, you know, not for nothing, they're outperforming too. Economists on Wall Street are thinking that if we fall into recession, people are going to start smoking cigarettes. If we fall into recession, people are going to need to drink alcohol. And if we fall into the recession, people are going to need to buy toothpaste and other necessary items, right? And that's why you see stocks like Church & Dwight, which we covered on last stream, ticker symbol CHD. These are trading near 52-week highs. Hey, Charles Boyd, thank you so much for the $5 donation. I appreciate you, Charles, for the support. Western Mass Dave says, don't apologize, Tom. Life gets in the way. Indeed, it does. So I'm working on a big deal, relatively large deal, with the major hospital in Jacksonville, Florida. So that's been taking up a lot of my time. Because, you know, when you're dealing with healthcare, hospitals in particular, there's a lot of compliance and regulatory stuff that you need to go through in order to do these deals. And I think rightfully so, right? I'm not complaining about it because I think it's the right thing to do. But at the end of the day, it's exhausting. Really, really exhausting. Hey, Dale says people in their 20s are smoking. It is disturbing. They started picking it up during the pandemic. Yeah, I don't understand that at all. It's sad, but perhaps it's true. Good to see you, Dale. Sarah G, good to see you. Hey, the Austin Tennis is here. What's up, man? Carolina Tom says, congratulations on 12,000 subs soon. Thank you so much, Carolina Tom. I appreciate it. I hope you are well. EBITDA says, Tom, definitely not what we were hoping for. I just hope the Fed can effectively handle this without distorting the market or destroying the market. Funny how all those people said that this was transitory. Yeah, EBITDA, I think you're right, but look, I think the Federal Reserve is going to be okay. These people are all bent out of shape. I think the Federal Reserve is going to be okay with allowing equities markets to drop probably 10 to 15%. I would be okay with that too, because they got to get this inflation under control. I mean, having a 7.5% CPI print is unacceptable. And we've been talking about this ad nauseum on the stream, right? And I think I've said this, ever since they started sending out stimulus checks and printing money. It may feel good in the moment when everybody's getting a check at their door, but it all negates each other in the end. I mean, a 7.5% inflation print, even if you get a $1,200 check in the mail, you're just going to be spending more on food. You're going to be spending more on housing. Rent has gone through the roof. I remember last week on the stream, we were covering rent in New York City, or the median rent in New York is now at $3,400 a month, the highest median rent ever in the city. But I mean, I don't understand what everybody is so surprised about. I mean, if you print 70% of all the US dollars in existence in the matter of 1 year, you're definitely going to get inflation. If anything, I think the inflation numbers are a lot higher. But look, if the Federal Reserve raises rates, I think they'll be able to get it under control. But then you're going to have a not so good time in the stock market. But look, if the price is equities, if the indices can come down 20%, it's not the end of the world if we can get inflation under control. Hey, Chrissy in Iowa says, I always enjoy your voice. Nice and beautiful scenery. Thank you. There's a lot of traffic tonight. It's very loud tonight in Miami. Unlimited stimulus, says Tom. Inflation could very well be as high as 16%. EBITDA, says Tom. I agree. I am not looking forward to the correction. I just do not want to see the market get hit and the inflation not fixed. I am okay if it actually gets things done. I think you're right. Carolina Tom says, our current inflation is not organic. It's politician created. Higher rates won't affect it. Carolina Tom, I think you make a good point. It all has to depend on money velocity. And at some point, all of these extra dollars are going to start to chase the same amount of goods. But I mean, the thing that's the most, I would say, concerning about the CPI numbers today is more specifically if we drill down and start talking about the prices of, shelter and food. So shelter costs is, I think, about a third of the CPI. Is that right? I think it's 1/3 of the CPI is just shelter. And that increased 0.3% on the month and 4.4% year over year. So just in 1 month, 0.3% increase in the cost of shelter, so your rent. But on an annualized basis, this is almost running at 5%. So that's what's really concerning, because inflation, as we've been talking about for a while now, really only affects the working class, the middle class, who predominantly don't own as many assets. They don't own their homes free and clear. They're renters. So their rent is going up and up. Their food cost is going up and up. But their wages, by and large, are stagnating. So stagnating wages on top of higher inflation is definitely not good whatsoever. So speaking of EBITDA, we're looking at Bank of America Tower. Hey, Michael Welsh Jr. This is Michael from Whole Foods. Keep it up on the good videos. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. EBITDA, this is Tom. COVID has definitely had an effect on things. We cannot forget about what it did to the supply chain on top of elections and money printing. It honestly could have been worse. I think you're right. Check out this boat coming through. EBITDA is given this current landscape, what stocks will we be holding over the next couple months? Well, look, I mean, in my traditional retirement accounts, I'm still just long the S&P, and I'll continue to be long the S&P, because even if we go into a severe recession, you know, I'm 26 years old, so I believe the market is going to recover over that period of time. But in my long-short portfolio that I run in Interactive Brokers, you know, I'm only about maybe 65% long after the follow-through day we had on Monday, and the only two stocks that and Apple, and it's a very good possibility that I could get stopped out of both of those positions. And if I do, then I'll probably only be about 25% long. No, about 35% long. And then that's a big cash position. So we'll see. We'll see if, you know, if we break the lows in the indices, you know, we could head significantly lower. But I think if the Federal Reserve raises rates in March, I think that's going to signal to the market or establish some more credibility with the Fed. And I think the market's going to turn around. Because we've already been seeing a little bit of bottoming action in a lot of these growth stocks. You know, you look at Atlassian, like a ServiceNow, a Zscaler, a CrowdStrike, an Okta. You know, some of these growth stocks are trying to find a floor and trying to find a bottom. So we'll see. If things can go sideways for a couple months, it's not the end of the world. But we just need to keep our eye on the bond market. EBITDA says you would rather sit in cash. In my actively managed accounts, if the market forces me to cash, you know, I'll probably... The only time, I'm never really 100% cash, ever. Not even in my actively managed accounts, because I never really want to be all out, right? I never really want to be all out of the market, but, you know, there's possibility where I could be 75, 80% cash. Hey, James Tiger says, bring from CHI. Great edits his thoughts on the Pfizer drop. I really don't have any thoughts on that, to be honest. I very seldom do I even cover biotechnology stocks, just because I'm not smart enough to understand how they operate, and I think there's too many moving variables there. Where I specialize is in SaaS stocks, or software as a service, enterprise software stocks, mainly because I know the industry and I know what type of products and services companies buy, mainly because I'm in the industry as a salesperson selling software. Good to see you, Michelle McGraw. Dino says only South Florida is warm in January. Most of Florida, like Tampa, Orlando, and Jacksonville, tends to be cooler. Agreed with that. Well, Dino, it was probably about 77 to 80 degrees today. It's nice. Really nice here. Ah, Chris, got it. The Mag Mile in Chicago. Very cool. So we are under the W Hotel, or the parking garage in the W Hotel. Hey, Kathy Lyons, this is a beautiful view. Good to see you, Kathy. Oliviera is here. How are you? Sarah G, good to see you. Laura E says, this market is making my friends on the brink of retirement pretty nervous. I don't really understand it all, but they are nervous. Yeah, I mean, I totally understand the frustration. And I mean, if, you know, especially when inflation is raging like this. That's why I think, especially if you're going to be headed into retirement, I think it's good to be diversified between equities as well as real estate, especially real estate that produces income for you. So if you own, you know, multifamily real estate, things like that. Because if the stock market does take a hit, at least you'll be able to have some income coming in from your real estate and have a place to live. So I think those are the most important necessities, right? Is a place to live, food, things like that. Hey, Sonny D says, hey Tom, any thoughts on why Microsoft was hit so hard today? They seem to lead the way. Hey, Michael Welsh, thank you so much for the $25 donation, dude. I really, really appreciate that very much. I just saw that come across the screen there. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it. But Sonny D, yeah, so Microsoft came off of a good quarter, but look, you know, there's one thing we need to understand is market direction, right? And at the end of the day, when the market goes down, I think it's like something like 7 out of 10 stocks will follow the overall theme of the market. So if the market's going down, doesn't matter what a good stock's gonna get hit too. You know, and we just came off an egregious CPI print, right? And that was the topic for today's stream. 7% inflation print. And at some point or another, this is going to start to hit margins of a lot of companies, right? I think there's only so much companies can do to keep their profit margins intact. And there's only so much cost that they can pass on to consumers. So we'll see. But Michael Welsh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for the support. G Hope, thank you for watching. Good to see you. Pixel Logic is here. Says, hey Tom, good to see you, Pixel Logic. Triple G says, Tom, inflation is at 7%, but many products are up 25 to 30. Yeah, it's definitely not good. We definitely got to get inflation under control for sure. So this is the River Walk here, and we are outside the Cipriani, where we always take a look at the one either on Wall Street in New York City or right outside of the Grand Central Station near Pershing Square. Hey, Maria makes a very good point. Says if your tenants don't behave, responsibility and law does not support eviction, it becomes a problem. Well, you're definitely right. I think that's why, you know, if you're going to buy rental real estate, it's very important that you buy it in a jurisdiction that will support an eviction, right? So some places like New York City, where I'm from, or Long Island, if you get a tenant that doesn't pay his rent, it's going to be really, really hard for you to evict that person. So it's a great point you made. So this bush right here, it's called Collusia. And I'm actually planting these currently right outside my house to make a hedge. But a lot of people don't know this, that if you don't trim these will actually grow up to 12 feet high. And if you ever are going to trim these, you have to trim them with a scissor, because if you trim them with an electric blade, they will get damaged and sick. and the whole bush will die. So if you're going to trim them, you got to make sure that you do it with a scissor. Best says inflation is just going to get out of control. I think it may already be out of control. Wow, check out how low the tide is, everybody. Lay, this is Tom's gardening tips. Sarah G says hedge against inflation. Funny. Hey, Jonathan Francis, month-to-month rental agreement. Out. Buy the book says, do you have to water them often? So actually you don't, and that's the good thing. You know, so these plants are native to southern Florida and parts of Brazil, and they're actually drought resistant, which is very good. These are Clusia right here too, but if you let them grow, they grow to 12 feet high. So I want to try to make a privacy hedge. But here's the thing, in southern Florida, especially here in Miami, during the summer, we get a ton of rain. So I don't think I'm gonna have any issues with having to water them or anything like that. Lori E says, can you explain why the costs of some groceries and gas aren't included in the inflation numbers? Well, so here's the thing. They're considered volatile, right? Quote unquote. I think it's ridiculous too, but anything that's sort of has drastic change, they try to exclude. And that's why a lot of economists say real inflation could very well be, 16%, right? But that is sort of their reasoning for that. But food in general, I think, has increased 4.4% per annum. But I'm not sure if you just joined the stream, but if you want to watch an interesting interview that just came out after the close with Real Vision, Thomas Thornton, hedge fund telemetry, if you type !REAL in the chat, the Nightbot will drop the link that everybody should watch, and it'll give you a really good understanding of the correlation between interest rates and equities in general. Hey, Bernard Friedman, thank you so much for joining. It's always good to see you, Bernard. I hope you're doing well. Best says, my teacher told me this in the 90s when a hero with everything used to cost $2.50. Now the same hero is $7. A hero, an Italian hero, is way more than that. Almost 20. Alexander says, for a more accurate and comprehensive measure of inflation rates in the United States, look to the Personal Consumption Expenditures PCE Index. Right on, Alexander. Agreed. Joseph says, how goes it? Tons of rain in Jacksonville. Good to see you, Joseph. Crazy Auto says, I've noticed packaged goods have gone up. There's a lot of people out tonight on a Thursday. So if you look in the distance, you're going to be able to see the Bank of America Tower. And also, right here, you can see into Brickell. Or Mary Brickell Village. Dino says you might get the roll on a hero for $7. Yeah, I mean, if you walk into a bodega, and you get a full Italian hero, it's probably going to cost, I don't know, $19. Hey, Carolina Tom says these walks are a nice evening escape, Tom. Thanks, buddy. Thank you, Carolina Tom, for being here. I think this is a mariachi band they got in here. Hey, Cashmere Funk says, hey Tom, question, how do you feel about everything we need is on a ship in the middle of the ocean? I believe you're referring to the supply chain crisis. Yeah, there's a lot of ships sitting off the coast. I'm actually dealing with that issue right now. One of my customers has a product that's sitting on a ship. Check this out. Look at this yacht going by over here in the distance. Right there. Oh, everybody, I forgot to tell you, I have some big news. So some big news, some interesting news. So for everybody, you know, sometimes on the channel we do a deep dive into cryptocurrencies, more specifically Bitcoin. You guys know that I'm long Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I am working on, and I believe, you know, I was talking with some people today. We are going to have an exclusive press pass to the Miami Bitcoin 2022, where we are going to be able to sit in on some of the major interviews with Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy, Max Kaiser, as well as Andrew Yang. So we will have an exclusive Walks in Wall Street press pass in April for the Miami Bitcoin conference, where we will be able to sit in on the interviews with Michael Saylor, Max Kaiser, and Andrew Yang. So if you guys are interested in that, feel free to subscribe to the channel. So it's going to be crazy. It's going to be amazing. And I'm excited about it. So if anybody who doesn't know who Michael Saylor is, he is the CEO and founder of MicroStrategy, which is a publicly traded software company. So we will definitely be providing full coverage of Miami Bitcoin 2022, as we will have a front row seat with a press pass. Cosmo Series says, wow, you better interview Andrew Yang. We'll definitely be seeing him. Hey, George is here. Or Gregory is here. Says, nice. What's up, Gregory? Buy the book says, that's awesome. I'm excited. Hey, Irevis is here. Says, hi, Tom. This area is beautiful. Indeed it is. This is the very famous Mandarin Oriental Hotel. There's one right in New York City at the Deutsche Bank Towers, formerly known as the Time Warner Center. Sarah G says, that's amazing. I am excited for the combos on that. Yeah, so I believe it is going to be April 6th through April 9th. So we're going to be streaming the entire conference. So we're going to be able to meet a lot of CEOs of cryptocurrency startups and startup companies. And we'll actually be able to meet some pretty big bankers, like Michael Novogratz will be there. So we're going to have a press pass. We're going to be streaming it 24/7. So obviously I'll be here in Miami. If you guys want to tune in, feel free. I believe it's April 6th through the 9th. So that Wednesday through Saturday, I believe. Hey, Robert is here. Says, hey, Tom and folks. What's up, Robert? Good to see you. Michael Welsh says, Tom, do you prefer to live in New York City or Florida? Which weather do you prefer? Where do you think is the most affordable? So, I mean, for me, I think it's good to split my time 50-50 between Miami, Florida, and New York City. Obviously, I like being in Miami during this time of year a lot better. And in the summer, I'm probably going to prefer New York City a lot better. In terms of affordability, I think it just depends on your situation, because Miami is actually getting to be, in some instances, more expensive than New York. But, you know, if you have a job here, you're not going to be paying state taxes, and you're not going to be paying New York. And since I do work in the technology, so I thought to myself, you know, from New York City, paying all these taxes, when I could just buy something in Miami, Florida, save on the taxes, and then hopefully Hey, Pacific Desert Raid is here. What's up, Pacific Desert Raid? Good to see you. Check out the Aston Martin building from here. Michael says, Tom, you are definitely blessed. The fact of being able to afford both lifestyles, may the Lord bless you and your family this year. And the crazy taxes in New York. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely very, very fortunate. Very fortunate. I think that technology is one of those industries where it really doesn't matter where you work. So, you know, COVID has definitely changed the game for a lot of industries, for sure. Hey, Sunshine New York is here. What's up, Sunshine? Good to see you. Sabrina Fair says hello. Pacific Desert Raid says Miami is popping. Wolf Theta is here. What's up, Wolf Theta? Crazy Autos says Florida pay sucks, so you better be retired getting paid in a New York firm or a hustler. Yeah, I mean, a Crazy Auto, I think it really just depends on the industry you're in, right? It really just depends. And I think that, you know, Southern Florida, especially here in Brickell Key, there's a lot of technology startups being attracted here. So, you know, a lot of my friends who work on Wall Street, who had very lucrative exit opportunities to work in venture capital here, are making more money actually than in New York. So I think it just depends on the industry you're in, where you work. You know, factoring in taxes, I'm getting a raise by moving here. But I think you're right. Overall, the pay tends to be lower, but it really just depends on what industry you're working in. Hey, Jonathan's here. What's up, Jonathan? So we met Jonathan right here, I believe last stream. Says, Tom, any dolphin sightings yet? Not today, Jonathan, but good to see you again. Hope you're well. Jonathan, I believe, is a Miami native. Lori E's like it's always like the weekend in Miami. Uh, 85.95 says at least Florida isn't as bad as Texas pay. Crazy Auto says healthcare and educational pay is a joke. Yeah, so I did hear about that. I believe like the public school teachers do not get paid as much at all as opposed to New York. That is definitely very true. Jonathan says they will show up and the manatees too. Well, I saw some manatees this morning near my house. Michael Welch says, Tom, do you think Fidelity is a good investment company? That's what Whole Foods offers. Yeah, I mean, Fidelity is one of the largest money managers in the world by assets. And I think Whole Foods is a great company. You know, Whole Foods was acquired by Amazon, and you guys probably have a really good 401k retirement plan, which I would definitely be taking part in. But yeah, Fidelity is, you know, at my old company that I used to work at, Fidelity used to custodian our retirement accounts. So Fidelity is definitely a big money manager. Sarah G says, I feel that if you pay your employees well, it will save turnover. Yeah, definitely will. I think you know, they want to increase their employee retention, you got to start paying employees a little bit more. Hey Christine, this is nice walk at the Brickell. It's 84 degrees in San Diego today. Summer is here. Good to see you. All right, we'll keep walking this way and then back to Brickell. Pacific Desert Raid says, Tom, there's a lot of tech companies in the Bay Area. There's a ton. Cindy Foley is here. What's up, Cindy? Says, Miami is beautiful. I would be hard to leave to go to New York City. Yeah, I think New York City and Miami are probably, I mean, at least for me, my two favorite places. Supposedly the Aston Martin building, once it's complete, is going to be totally lit up. Can't wait for that. Hey, T&Me TV, this is just tuned in. Great views and crystal clear. Good to see you, T&Me TV. We were just talking about the 7.5% CPI. Inflation is running wild. We'll see if our buddy Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell can get it under control. Sabrina Fair it is. Sabrina Fair, it definitely is. Hey, Ron says, hi, Tom. Thank you for issue number 13. Much to absorb. Thank you, Ron. Oh, check that plane out. It's so... Man, that plane was flying crazy low. Yeah, but Ron, thank you so much for reading the Behind the Street newsletter. I really do appreciate it. If you guys want to check out issue number 13 on the Behind the Street newsletter, which is a free financial newsletter that I write for, I think, over 480 people now has signed up for the newsletter. So I really, really do appreciate everybody who has been reading the newsletter. Thank you so much. It means a lot. So if you type !news, N-E-W-S, in the chat, the Nightbot will drop the link to the newsletter where you could sign up for free. So we'll walk this way and then out. Hey, Spencer is here. What are you filming with? We are filming with an iPhone 11. Man, it is a beautiful night here in downtown Miami. Crazy beautiful night. A bit windy, beautiful nonetheless. We saw one of these guys one night. Hey, Jesse says, any advice on finding a good CFP professional? Well, I really, to be totally honest, I don't. I think it's just, I would try to at first I would try to take on a lot of that stuff myself. I would try to become, you know, the best autodidact, or increase your autodidact skills, like learning things on your own. But I think as you start to make more and more money, I think it's wise to get a CPA. And usually once you get a very good CPA, he can advise on financial planning, financial planning and the like. Hey, Clarence Jackson, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Clarence says, I would love to be bi-coastal in New York City and LAX. I thought about doing that, Clarence, and one of the reasons why I didn't do that is because every time I go to Vegas, the flight is just way too long. I think that there's so many bugs here. I'm swallowing bugs like mosquitoes. Man. It's just way too long of a flight. It's almost like 5.5 hours from New York City to Las Vegas. And I can't do 5.5 hours. But when I go on a plane to Florida, it's only 2.5. So it's not that big of a deal. But I don't think I could do the constant back and forth between New York City and LA or Vegas. I don't know if I could do it. But it's interesting though. Sunshine, New York. I know. Sunshine, New York says, Tom, you have to get to West Palm Beach and walk through the city and record it on the live feed. Is beautiful. I definitely do, Sunshine. You're right. I just haven't had time. Like, I got back to New York. I got back to Miami, Florida from New York I've been back for about a week now. And, I'm working just so much during the day. I really have no time to get out. But I will, I promise. Ireva says it takes 5 hours to get to Hawaii. Is that true? Interesting. Sarah G says, trust your gut recommendations to test them out with small amounts of money first. I think that's a good piece of advice. Triple G says, Tom, New York was 51 degrees today. Ooh, that's beautiful. See, 51 degrees in New York in February feels like 80 degrees. It's like the best feeling ever. Tim says, looks peaceful and pleasant. Triple G, good to see you. Here now. This is near the W Hotel. Doctor says, are you an autodidact or do you have a background in finance? I do not have a traditional background in finance. The vast majority of it is self-taught. But then again, during college, I did have a brief internship at a hedge fund. And that was a little bit of a debacle and another story in itself, because the founders raised a bunch of money and we actually never got a chance to launch the firm, and it folded. But my background is in tech sales. So originally I wanted to do the traditional investment banking route. I wanted to work in the sales and trading department of the investment bank. But then I went into enterprise tech sales. So selling telecom and traditional software services to Fortune 500 companies and healthcare, specifically into very large hospitals, nursing homes, things like that. And to be honest, I think going into the tech world or a tech career has really helped me in investing, because if you think about the companies who've driven the vast majority of the returns in the S&P 500 over the past 5 to 10 years, it's been all big enterprise software, big data companies, and big tech companies. So for me, I know the buying habits of large corporations. I know the software products they buy. I know which ones they prefer. So I think that's helped me out quite a bit. So here's Bank of America Tower, our pal EBITDA. Hey, Techno Pink is here. What is up, Techno Pink? Good to see you. So Techno Pink actually works at Ernst & Young, which is a big consulting firm. So you could think about a KPMG, Deloitte, Ernst & Young. And, speaking of Bitcoin, there's actually some big news out of KPMG where they actually bought Bitcoin and Ethereum as a part of their corporate treasury. So pretty interesting and exciting news on that front. But good to see you, Techno Pink. Hope you're well. Latha's like, Tom needs an electric fly swatter. I do. Clarence Jackson says, what are your thoughts on Unity software and Roblox? So Roblox is pretty much like a pure play metaverse play. I'm not sure if it's investable for me personally. If I had to choose between the two stocks, Unity software and Roblox, I'd probably buy Unity. But even that, I do not own any of them. Just because I think the valuation's a little bit too crazy for me. Hey, Perel is here from Detroit. Good to see you. Vike says, do your own homework when investing your money. Agreed. Hey, Dogman says, Pelosi buys Roblox. She must know something. Yeah, so, I mean, has anybody... I think they're trying to push an initiative where members of Congress can no longer trade stocks. And I think they're going to get that done rather quickly. I know I saw AOC coming on the news, I think a couple days ago, talking about it. Which, look, I agree with it. This has been a topic of discussion for a long time on the stream. Christina says, where are the food trucks in Brickell tonight? You know, very rarely do I see food trucks. Hey, the Mighty Bull is here. What's up, Mighty Bull? G Hope says, Tom, what was the first stock you purchased you've ever made? I think it was Starbucks. Ticker symbol SBUX. I think was the first real major one that I put like real money in. But I think like the first stock that I bought maybe like $100 of was this oil company called Axis Petroleum. The ticker symbol is AXAX. And I think it's actually out of business now. But the first real stock that I put any type of real money in was Starbucks. Ticker symbol SBUX. Lori E says, I'm a 54-year-old grandmother, homeschool my 15-year-old youngest child. Live in a small town of 500 rural America. That's awesome, Lori. I respect that a lot. You must have your hands full. I respect your personality, and I respect what you're doing. Good to see the Mighty Bull. So we're going to walk across the street here, hopefully without getting hit. And then we're going to take a walk to Mary Brickell Village. And then we'll call it a night. I think we're going to call it a night rather early on the stream. Because I do have to get up earlier. Thank God it's Friday at least. Hey, Dale says it's true about the bill to end stock buying for Congress. Yeah, Dale, so Dale, you make a good point. So Dale is saying even though they passed the bill to have members of Congress stop trading stocks, you know, it doesn't really stop their family members particularly from buying stocks, which I guess is true. And I think that's mainly what, you know, Nancy Pelosi does. But I mean, actually, you know, even though Nancy Pelosi is a big culprit, she's not the biggest. I think Representative or Congressman Dan Crenshaw outperformed the S&P 500 the most out of any congressperson ever. So he had a really good year. Hey, Christina says, Tom, the first stock I put my money in was the State Bank of Long Island in 1965. Wow. Very cool. Hey, the Mighty Bull. Appreciate you very much for the $5 donation, because this is a great channel and you are a great host. Thank you, Mighty Bull. We appreciate you. And I appreciate you very much. Sylvia H says, Buenos noches, Tom. Thanks for the updates in issue number 13 of the Behind the Street newsletter. 56 degrees. Very, very cool. For New York City on Saturday. Dale, I do. Unusual Whales. I follow them on Twitter. I think it's a great account to follow on financial Twitter. Ed Yarlington says, is day trading your full-time job? I don't do any day trading. I think day trading is quite a waste of time. And I think if you do start day trading, you'll probably lose all your money. Vike says, if you're young, buy stocks and have dividends reinvested. I agree with that. So I work in tech. I work in enterprise tech sales. So that tends to keep me busy. Hey, Patriot is here. Says, hey bro, what's up? What's up, Patriot? Good to see you. Yeah, Dale says the Unusual Whales account broke the stock market story and how Congress has outperformed the best traders. Yeah, I think Dan Crenshaw made the top of the list as well as a couple other people. But yeah, Nancy Pelosi is also up there. I believe Nancy Pelosi's husband was a former executive at a major investment bank. Dogman says anyone wanting to day trade should do it paper trading for well over a year so they could see how they are unlikely to make money. Yeah, I mean, I've always actually been against paper trading. I think paper trading is also a waste of time, but I do respect your opinion on that. But I do think that paper trading is an egregious waste of time, because the biggest element of investing is the element of having your own capital at risk, right? Because when you're trading, just paper or fake money, there's no emotional attachment there. There's really no psychological attachment. It's a completely different game when you're investing your own money, right? When you're running your own money. So one of my good friends runs a hedge fund, and he says it's sort of like going to the gun range, right? If you go to the gun range, you could be the best shooter possible. You could shoot a bullseye every time. But what happens when people are firing back at you, right? That totally changes the game. And I think that's a really good analogy for day trading, right? Day trading is like going to the range and firing downrange without having other people fire back at you. Hey, good to see you, Jerry. What's up, Jerry? Lori East says my children and grandchildren are my greatest investments. I agree with that. Hey, Jerry Covey is here. What's up, Jared? Patriots says, bro, which broker do I use? So I use Charles Schwab and Interactive Brokers. Those are the two brokers I use. Hey, the Mighty Bull says, how can politicians get away with insider trading in front of our eyes? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? I mean, politicians are quite literally making different policies, and they have access to information that the average person never would have access to. but somehow it is allowed. But supposedly there's a real bill that's going to come into place that will... And look, here's my position on it. I do believe that members of Congress should be able to participate in the capital markets, right, in the equities market. But I think they should be able to do it from a passive standpoint. I think they should only be allowed to, let's say, dollar cost average into an S&P 500 index fund or something like that. I think that's probably more fair. I don't think that they should trade individual stocks. Because, for example, let's say that you're making a bill about increasing government spending on cybersecurity, and you're very involved in that sort of decision-making process, and you go buy, 40 lot of calls on CrowdStrike before the bill is passed, right? The stock is probably going to go up. So I think things like that should be banned. But I do believe that if you are a member of Congress or a public servant, you should still be able to invest. Alexander says, if you knew how much the Fed was going to lower or raise interest rates 48 hours before the official announcement, you could cash in on the market, says Alexander. Western Mass Dave says, and it should be made public, stock trading. Scurvy Tooth says, lobbying is another thing that should be banned, in my honest opinion. Yeah, that's never going to happen. I mean, I agree with you, but that's definitely never going to happen. There's no way. There's too much money and corruption in that'll never happen. So now we are in the Brickell City Center. NC says lobbying is a constitutional right and fundamental to a representative government, says NC. Good to see you, NC. Joshua Lopez says, hello, Tom. Hope you're doing well. Likewise, I hope you're having a good week. Already Friday tomorrow, which is a good thing. It's been a very busy week for me. Hey, 48 is here. Says, good evening, Tom. Hope you are well. So I believe this is one of the oldest bars in Miami, as I believe Jonathan told us on the last stream. So this is South Miami Avenue. And so this is the Wework building that I work at sometimes. But also KPMG is in this building as well. And KPMG was in the news for announcing that they did buy Bitcoin and Ethereum in their corporate treasury. So pretty interesting. I think you're going to see more and more of that in 2022. You're going to see more major companies start to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and even pension funds too. I think you're going to see very large pension funds starting to put Bitcoin and Ethereum on their balance sheets as well. G-Hope, good to see you, G-Hope. Al Baker says Tobacco Road has the first license in Florida to serve alcohol. Is that true? That's crazy. That's awesome.
I'm gonna wear
Al Baker, good to see you. So next week is going to be we have Zoom info reporting, so ticker symbol ZI. And that is a stock I've been covering extensively pretty much ever since they went public. Their CEO is extremely reputable on the street. Henry Schuck. Hey, Two Explorers Videos says, hey all, what's going on? Good to see you. NE says, would you ever make a video where you go over how you analyze a stock through screen sharing? So I think I'm gonna start doing that on my second channel called Behind the Street. But that is a work in progress. So I may start a second channel where I sort of turn the Behind the Street newsletter into sort of a podcast type segment. So you could listen to an audio version of the Behind the Street newsletter. I think that would probably help people that don't want to physically read it, which I understand. But good to see you, NE. G-Hope, I do. And Boston Consulting too. Hey, Jared says, Tom, BlackRock to offer crypto trading on their Aladdin platform, on-ramping institutions. Yeah, I think that's, so Jared, you make a good point, and I think that's what Michael Novogratz company is trying to do, or has been trying to do. So Michael Novogratz used to be a major player on Wall Street. He used to be a managing director at Goldman Sachs, in which case he left to work at Fortress Investments, which is a major hedge fund. And then he started Galaxy Digital Assets, where his company acts as an intermediary or an on-ramp for large institutional investors to get access to Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I think McKinsey, speaking of EY and McKinsey, I think McKinsey is also right here. I think. We'll have to walk past it, but... Hey, Obama's here. What's up, Obama? Always good to see you. Hey Tom, hope you were doing good. Hello from India. Hey, welcome. Good to see everybody from India. Hope you're well. Yeah, so this is McKinsey & Company. We have Wework, and we also have KPMG right in one. So I sometimes come and work in this Wework. I actually may be working out of here tomorrow. So you have KPMG, McKinsey & Company, and Wework at 2 Brickell City Center. NE says, is it true most hedge funds don't outperform the S&P 500 long term? Yeah, but that is actually 100% true. That is actually 100% true. But here may be taken a little bit out of context, and I'll sort of a hedge fund sometimes is to reduce overall volatility of a portfolio, right? So sometimes if you read the prospectus or a white paper or whatever of a hedge fund, you know, what is the goal of the fund, right? So is it to generate a crazy amount of alpha, or is it to reduce volatility down 30%? You know, that particular hedge fund may be only down 5 or 6%. right? And the vast majority of people that invest into hedge funds are high net worth individuals or ultra high net worth individuals. So these people, generally speaking, are trying to stay rich, right? They're not really trying to get rich in most cases. I'm not saying in all cases, but I think it's pretty important to understand that even though a lot of hedge funds don't outperform the market, a lot of hedge funds do a good job in reducing volatility in their portfolios for their clients. But some hedge funds go bust and just blow up and go out of business. Just like that we saw, well, almost that happened with Melvin Capital with the whole GameStop debacle. Hey, Ed Dunkles is right. The classic hedge fund makes 1% a month no matter what. So Melvin Capital, I think, well, they had to get a bailout. And that was because they had a massive, massive short position on GameStop, which is totally ridiculous. I don't know why they would ever do that, but they did. Hey, Penelope Sears says, hey, Tom. Multitasking, thanks for the great info. Penelope, always good to see you. Hope you had a good Thursday. Good to see you, Mighty Bull. NMB045 says hedge means insurance. Hey, Marilyn is here, says you are so close to 12,000 subscribers on the channel. I know, that is just pretty bizarre for me to think about, so I do appreciate everybody being here every night, hanging out with me. So I appreciate everybody, and I hope you enjoy the content. Hey, Kathy Lyons says, good night, Tom. Thank you for a beautiful night in Miami. Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate you. And happy Friday. Happy early Friday. So I tried this place over the weekend before I left to New York City. This place is actually really good. Dr. Smooth right here. You're seeing this is Brickell area. Yeah, so this is Brickell City Center. It's sort of like the indoor-outdoor mall type thing. And this is where I work out of the Wework offices. But here's another view of South 7th Street and South Miami Avenue. But for those viewers who are just joining, if you type !real, R-E-A-L, in the chat, I wanted to provide everybody with a really interesting interview from Thomas Thornton, and he is the Chief Executive Officer of Hedge Fund Telemetry. And I think if you take 45 minutes out of your day to watch this interview, you're really going to have a deep understanding of how interest rates impact the equity markets, how central banking works, and just an overall broader knowledge base on inflation. So the Nightbot will drop the YouTube link to that interview. I think it's worth watching. I think you're going to enjoy it. It is quite long, I will warn you that. So, but I always like to provide everybody in the channel and in the chat with free information. Hey, Lori E, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Hey, Ron says, Tom, what are your thoughts on transportation stocks, specifically railroads? So those tend to be the stocks that I usually don't own those. I believe Berkshire Hathaway has significant stakes in those specific companies, but that is not really my area of expertise. Western Mass Dave, thank you for joining Western Mass Dave. Appreciate it. So I think tomorrow we will be streaming either from South Beach or Sunny Isles Beach. I have not yet decided, but most likely it'll probably be South Beach, because I want to check out those art galleries once again on the stream. Hey, Bob Droll, good to see you. Hope you're well. Alexander says, has tourism recovered in Miami to pre-COVID levels? What have you observed? So, I mean, from what I have observed here in Miami is the traffic is really crazy. You know, the traffic, I would even argue, is probably worse than New York, if that's even possible. So usually when I'm commuting or taking the bus or something like that, definitely 100% there's more car traffic on the roads. Hey, Otto's Tom, how has the Wework experience been in Brickell Center? So I like Wework. I think Wework is a good concept. Otto, obviously, as we know, when Adam Newman was ousted from the company, I think that was an overall good thing. I think he took advantage of Masa's son. And for people who don't know, Masayoshi's son, or Masa's son, is the chairman of SoftBank. And SoftBank is the company who essentially funded Wework, right? And my old CEO, which is Marcelo used to be the chief executive officer of SoftBank, controlling Wework, but he actually just resigned. And rumor was that he was expecting or demanding $1 billion compensation package. And they obviously couldn't accommodate $1 billion compensation package, so he left. But Marcelo is a good guy. You know, Marcelo, I have a lot of respect for him. Very smart guy. Emilio J says, Tom, Miami drivers are true psychopaths with a caravan bloodlust. Well, I'm not denying that. I mean, New York drivers and Florida drivers are crazy. Agreed. Hi, Rivas says, good night, Tom. And everybody, thank you. Hey, Rivas, thank you for joining. I appreciate you very much. Thanks for being here. Joshua Lopez says, hey, Tom, do you like Mexican cuisine? I would recommend try Rosa Mexicano in Union Square. You know, I do, but I've never tried that place. I'm going to have to check it out. I'm going to have to try. Jay says, Marcelo was the head of Sprint and was with T-Mobile after the merger for a bit. Yeah, so Marcelo was the chief executive officer of Sprint. And then he stepped down from Sprint, but he was still on the board. And he went over to work at SoftBank. But SoftBank had a majority ownership in, and that's why a lot of the corporate sales executives at Sprint, for number one, paid extremely, extremely well. and number two, had access to a wide, diverse portfolio of via channel partners. Mainly all of the channel partners that Masa-san had significant investments in. But Jay, good to see you. So this is Lucid Motors, another EV company here. And that's one of the reasons why I continue to be bullish on semiconductor stocks, or the semiconductor industry in general, just because of just the crazy amount of demand for semis, from EVs to 5G rollout. Hey, Juan is here. Says, good evening, Tom. Hope your day was well. I would have to say Las Vegas drivers are pretty crazy as well. Good to see you, Juan. Sabrina Ferris says, good idea. Time check 10:42. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Pacific Desert Raid, good to see you. Hey, William PhD, this is the new Scarface. What's going on, William? Hey, Asia Unscripted is here. Good to see you, Asia Unscripted. Marilyn is here. What's up, Marilyn? Is anybody watching the Olympics? I have not watched a single event in the Olympics so far. At least not yet. You know, there's a lot of complaints that have been going on with the Olympics. Supposedly the athletes are not being treated as they should. Has anybody else heard that? Supposedly the food that the athletes are being fed is not up to par. Sabrina Ferris says Olympics, nope. Chris Beeman says yes. Chris Beeman says yes. Triple G. Yeah, I think the ratings for the Olympics are down more than any other Olympics in history. Joshua Lopez says, how was your trip back to Miami, Tom? Haven't joined the stream since the last one in New York City. The trip back was good. I think we streamed on Monday, but I had to take 2 days off because work has been absolutely crazy. But things are good. It's back. I'm glad to be back in Miami. The weather is definitely great. It was about 80 degrees today. Buy the books is heck no on the Olympics. Yeah, Marilyn says, I feel bad for the athletes. Hey, Moran is here. This is beautiful Miami. Uh, 121, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure as of right now. Maybe in 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks. It really just depends on if I have to go back for meetings. I'd much rather just stay here for the majority of my time, but look, we'll see. We will see. I may actually have to go to Jacksonville, Florida for a big deployment that we're working on. Yeah, so I'm seeing a lot of people saying that the ratings for the Olympics are down. 121 says, what do you do for a living? I am in enterprise tech sales. What about you, 121? Yes, Sarah G says, Jacksonville is nice. Jacksonville, I've never been there yet. G Hope says, have you eaten at the Burger King? I have eaten at that Burger King. So now we are in Brickell Village. Mike C says, Tom, are you dreading the summer humidity in Florida? I'm not. I'm kind of weird. I'm a very weird person. I actually like it really, really humid. So I actually enjoy the humidity. I know that sounds weird, but it is true. I do enjoy the humidity. But just as a quick recap before we go, today's topic for the stream was inflation. So the CPI numbers came in at 7.5%. That is a year-over-year change, the highest since 1982. But on a month-to-month basis, the CPI was up 0.6% in January alone. So that's kind of crazy that we are pushing right up against that 1% increase per month, which is definitely not acceptable at all. And the stock markets actually were off to the races today, rallying hard. But once Federal Reserve President, the St. Louis Fed President, James Bullard, came on the air and signaled to the market that they are going to be raising interest rates at least 50 basis points in March to sort of fight off inflation, that scared the markets and sent stocks down hard. I believe the S&P 500 was down 1.8%, the NASDAQ almost down 2.5%. But if we dig deeply down into the CPI number, food and shelter costs, as well as oil, as well as energy, were up the most, right? And we've been talking about this in the housing market, in the rental market. We dedicated an entire stream to the New York City rental market, where it has the highest median rent prices in the history of New York City at $3,400 per month in the median rent. Hey, Sanjeev is here. What's up, Sanjeev? Thank you for joining. Hope you're well, Sanjeev. Yeah, Dogman says, Tom, quite the midday rug pull there. Juan says, end the Fed. I'm with you, Juan. Lady Stria says, any good paying jobs in Florida? Yeah, a lot. So it depends on what background you have. If you have a traditional investment banking background, there's a lot of good exit opportunities here for private equity, venture capital. If you're a full stack software engineer, there's a lot of good opportunities down here in software engineering, software sales, and even the hedge fund business. So if you are in the hedge fund business, there's a lot of job opportunities down here. So I think that is a little bit of a misconception that there's no good paying jobs in Florida. There actually are. It just depends on the industry you're in. I know earnings report by mistake at market close. Yeah, that was bizarre. So what happened there? I think they sent out a tweet with their financial reporting before the market closed. But the stock was getting punished like crazy after hours. I think the stock was down something like 25%. But Affirm is one of those buy now, pay later stocks. Juan Vasquez says Florida is the eastern jewel of America. Good to see you, Juan. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if they have to pay some sort of regulatory fines or fees for that, by the way. I would not be surprised at all. I think the SEC will definitely be knocking on their door, because you're definitely not allowed to release any sort of financial reporting before the bell. Yeah, 1-to-1 says likely lawsuits too, 100%. Well, you know, I didn't even have time to look at the earnings report. Did they at least, was it a beat and raise quarter, or did they miss pretty much on everything? G hopes, says Tom, Texas is trying to figure out how to eliminate property taxes. That's very interesting. Alexander says a firm will be getting a knock at the door, 100%. Yeah, whoever is in charge of their social media content is probably going to get fired, I think. Lori East says, I've been to Melbourne Beach, Florida. Juan Bueno says, Tom, that's the building with all the different colors. Or what's the building? I'm not sure what it's called, but I believe that is Brickell City Center. Brickell City Center here in Mary Brickell Village. The Mighty Bull says, bull run, bull run. So that 10-year Treasury yield that we always talk about is now above 2%. So the spread, or the yield curve, the spread between the 10-year Treasury and the 2-year Treasury is continuing to collapse. And many economists are actually expecting an inversion of the yield curve. And when the yield curve inverts, that is usually a sign that a recession is on the way, quite likely. Mike C says Texas already doesn't have income tax. Not sure how they'll fund the government on sales tax alone. Bit of Wander says buy Radio Shack. So funny. Oh man, we've already been streaming for 2.5 hours. Or almost. So we gotta head back to the bus. I'll take you guys with me, but my phone may die. I wanted to walk around the other financial district, but I definitely lost track of time tonight. We've already been streaming for over 2 hours. I'm not sure how that happened, but it's always a good time with everybody. Time flies when you're having fun, I guess. But if you guys want to read the 13th edition of the Behind the Street newsletter that I write every single week, if you type exclamation EWS in the chat, the Nightbot will drop the link to the Behind the Street newsletter. You can punch in your email and sign up for free. Sarah G says, we appreciate you, Tom. I appreciate you too. Thank you, Sarah G. And happy early Friday to everybody. It's been a crazy week, at least for me. So I hope you guys have a good weekend. It's supposed to be beautiful weather here in Miami. Hey Alex, says Tom, I tuned in late tonight. Did you speak about a possible recession? So we were mainly talking about the crazy 7.5% CPI print that we got. And the increase more specifically in the prices of food and housing. But look, I think if the Federal Reserve raises rates 5 times, especially if they raise them, the first rate hike is 50 basis points. Well, allegedly, the first rate hike is going to be 50 basis points. When the Federal Reserve tightens into a recession, that is probably the worst possible scenario. And I think as the Federal Reserve says, they're going to decrease or stop altogether their asset purchases. So right now, the Federal Reserve is buying mortgage-backed securities as well as U.S. Treasuries. But they are going to stop that, so they're going to taper. And they're going to start raising interest rates. So the interview that I left the link, if you type !real, R-E-A-L, take a look at that interview from Real Vision after the market closed today. It's about a 45-minute interview. But Thomas Thornton, which is the CEO of hedge fund Telemetry, outlines everything fairly well. Hey, Animal DL, good to see you. Alexander's is a firm. Quarterly net losses widen. Yeah, I definitely don't doubt that. A lot of the buy now, pay later stuff, I think over the long run will be good, but maybe not now. I think those type of businesses, the buy now, pay laters, are very dependent on artificially low interest rates. Unlimited stimulus is when energy peaked, recession followed. Jerry says Jerome Powell has egregious economic tool precision. Hey, Penelope's here. The cats are good. The cats are good, Penelope. I left out some water today. Penelope is joining us from Tennessee. Good to see you, Penelope. Hey, XOXX Bob says Miami looks great tonight. Good to see you, Bob. Hope you're well. Bitsmag TV says good evening, everybody. What's up, Bitsmag TV? It's good to see you. Happy early Friday. Friday Eve, as they call it. Hey, Out and About is here. Says good evening and cheers. What's up, Out and About? Out and About is our moderator from Toronto, Canada. Somebody says, what is the weather tonight? Well, I don't know what it is in Celsius. I'll have to do the conversion, but it's probably about 77 degrees outside here in downtown Miami. David Berman says, hi, do you remember me? I met you in Brickell. I got into Babson College. Oh, I do remember you. Yeah, absolutely, man. That's awesome. Babson College is a great college if you want to... There's a lot of different recruiters that go to that school. So thank you for joining again. We were talking about the 7.5% print on the CPI numbers, which probably means that we're going to get a 50 basis point rate hike in March 2022. And across the board today, I mean, once the market opened, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the NASDAQ, and the S&P 500 really took off. And a lot of the higher beta growth stocks were doing really well. But after the inflation numbers came out, way worse than expected, and more importantly, James Bullard, which is the St. Louis Fed president, saying that we need to start to raise interest rates immediately to fight off inflation, stocks got hammered. So in an interest rate environment where it's rising, that could still put pressure on a lot of the higher beta growth stocks. Because the vast majority, if you think about the Russell 2000, a lot of the stocks in the Russell 2000, which are smaller companies that do not have earnings, or if they do have earnings, a lot of their earnings are forecasted many quarters out into the future. So when you have an interest rate environment that is going up, those earnings are now worth less in their present value today, if that makes sense. So the 10-year Treasury yield broke past 2% today. So if you're a tech company and your earnings are priced into the future, when rates go up, your earnings priced in the future are now worth less today. So you're going to have a multiple re-rating and PE compression. So we've been seeing a lot of these price to earnings ratios come down. And I think as 2 or 3 earnings reports roll through here, I think a lot of these stocks will tend to grow into their valuations. And I think in the latter part of the year, we're actually probably going to see a pretty big rally across the board in growth stocks. Hey, Juan Vasquez, what's up, man? Hey, Lori E, thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Hope you have a good night, and we'll see you in the next one. Hey, Eric. What's up, Eric? Just Tom, do you still skateboard on the channel? We will. We will. It's coming back. Skateboard is coming back. It's just been a little bit crazy with the move. I definitely underestimated the amount of work that goes into moving and buying a house. Eric says, what about the lowball numbers on inflation? It's probably closer to 17 to 20%. Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I think it's probably closer to probably about 18%. I think that's probably fair. You're spot on, Eric. NE says, Tom, do you think people are overly invested in the S&P 500? Seems like a lot of people just totally quit investing in the international markets after years of data. Well, I think the vast majority of innovation happens here in the United States. But, you know, there's a lot of foreign stocks, a lot of European stocks that trade at book value, right? Or trade at cash, their net cash values. Right, and that's true. But then again, it's very difficult doing business in a lot of European markets. That's why a lot of US companies command higher multiples. But I have a little bit of exposure, just a little bit of exposure to emerging markets, but not through individual stocks, through an emerging market ETF. But who knows? I mean, we could have a secular bull market in emerging markets. It's definitely possible. You know who's really bullish on emerging markets? Peter Schiff. So Peter Schiff is the CEO and founder of Euro Pacific Capital and Euro Pacific Bank. And he tends to be a big gold bug or commodities guy. But he's been really overweight in European equities. But then again, he's severely underperformed the S&P 500 pretty much since he founded his fund. Hey, Optimus Prime is here. What's up, Optimus Prime? Good to see you. Yeah, somebody says, I hope you got a good deal on the house. Things are crazy. Yeah, I did get a good deal on it. The good thing is I didn't have to pay any closing costs. So the seller actually paid all my closing costs, which was good. Yeah, Mike says Peter Schiff has been wrong 95% of the time. Look, and I like Peter Schiff a lot. I think he has a great podcast. If you guys don't listen to Peter Schiff's podcast, I definitely would recommend it. It's one of my favorite podcasts out there, to be honest. Called The Peter Schiff Show. But I am doing a lot of construction on the house. So I will send everybody before and after photos of it. Mike C says Peter Schiff has the best theme song of all podcasters. So you know what was one of the videos that got me interested in economics? If you type in on Google Peter Schiff, I am the 1%, you you got to watch that entire video. Peter Schiff, I am the 1%. And that was when Peter Schiff went down to the Occupy Wall Street protests in Zuccotti Park down in Lower Manhattan. So if anybody hasn't seen that, you got to check it out. That is one of the best interviews ever. Peter Schiff, I am the 1%. At least that's one of my favorites. Mike sees as compassionate capitalism. All right, we're almost to the bus. XOXX Bob's to Cedarhurst Tower. So I believe it's April 6th through April 9th. There's going to be, right here in Miami Beach, there's going to be the Bitcoin 2022 conference, where Max Kaiser from the Kaiser Report, I believe Michael Novogratz, Andrew Yang is going to be there, as well as Michael Saylor, the CEO of MicroStrategy. So we have a press pass on the Walks in Wall Street channel, so we will be in the interview room with Michael Saylor, with all of the keynote speakers. So we're going to be doing full coverage of that, of the Bitcoin Conference 2022 right here in Miami. We were fortunate enough to get a press pass, which is fantastic. So we will be front row in all of the keynote speakers, streaming it live for Bitcoin 2022 Miami. Pacific Desert Raids, it should be good. What's up, Pacific Desert Raid? Hey, Ahmed, no problem. Thank you for joining, Ahmed. Hope you're well. So everybody, we will end it here. I got to get on the bus back home. I appreciate everybody joining. William Creech, thank you so much. Penelope, Dallas, Sabrina Fair, Mike C, Jeff Boyd, good to see you. Bitsmag TV, Bob, Sunshine After Rain, Jared, Cosmos Scary, Super Friends in the City, Mike C, Eric, XOXX Bob, and everybody. EBITDA, Buy the Book, Out and About, Charlie Richardson, FredX. Thank you for joining. I'll see everybody right back here tomorrow. And to the Mighty Bull, have a good night wherever you are, because there's always a bull market somewhere. You just need to know where to look. If you want to sign up for the free Behind the Street newsletter, you can type !news, NEWS in the chat, where you can sign up to read the free weekly investing newsletter. I hope everybody has a great Friday, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow as we walk around South Beach or Sunny Isles Beach, haven't decided yet. Michelle McGraw, thank you. Everybody, Penelope, be safe, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Have a good one.